On Madame Raz's flying ship, Glimmer and Bo were keeping watch. Cowl perched beside them on the rail.
Beast Island,
Glimmer said suddenly, pointing downwards. As everyone came to peer down, Bo said,
Uh-oh, we've got trouble.
It was Hordak, in his Annihilator, on his way to the prison. Shadow Weaver sat beside him. He smiled nastily as he saw them and punched a button. Seconds later, the little flying ship fell out of the sky. Its mast and sail had gone, smashed by a ball of pulsating energy from Hordak's cannons. The Horde leader grinned and flew on into the prison. Flames roared and licked at the crashed ship. Surely no one could still be alive. Or could they? A glowing bubble of light emerged from the fire. Glimmer's magic powers holding the rebels safe within its circle. Everyone gathered round as she sank to the ground, exhausted. Cowl watched her, worried.
The Horde might send men here,
He said.
Better to leave this area immediately.
I'll carry her,
said Battle Cat. Bo helped Glimmer into the saddle, and they set off once more to rescue He-Man. Inside the prison, Shadow Weaver was praising Adora.
You have served the Horde well by capturing this stranger,
Said Shadow Weaver.
His name is He-Man,
Said Adora.
I'm proud of you too, Adora,
Said Hordak.
Thank you, Mighty One.
Said Adora.
May I return to the Fright Zone now? I have to do some investigating.
Of course.
Said Hordak.
Go.
As Adora left, Shadow Weaver said,
There's something here I don't understand. She should be watched.
Hordak brushed her words aside. Adora had always been a favorite of his.
She's loyal enough. The spells you have put on her make sure of that.
Madame Raz and the little band of rebels were still having a bad time as they struggled through the jungle on their way to the prison. One of the terrible beasts after which the islands was named came after them, shrieking its rage. First Battle Cat, then Bo tried to stop it, without success. Madame Raz tried to magic it away, but she got the spell wrong, as she so often did. The rest ran for their lives, but the monster landed right on top of Bo. But Battle Cat had a surprise in store. Before the monster could make another move, it was hit by one juicy fruit after another. Bo and Battle Cat fled as the monster tried to clear its eyes to see.
Thanks, Battle Cat,
Said Bo. Shadow Weaver's doubts had been right. Adora had dressed in the clothes of an Etherian peasant and had gone out on her horse Spirit. She was going to see just how the Horde did treat the Etherians. He-Man must be wrong. As she rode out through one gate, telling the sentry she was on a secret mission for Hordak, the rebels went in through another gate. Bo and Glimmer had overcome the guards and taken their uniforms. They were unlucky once more, however. From the moment they arrived at the prison, Grizzlor had been watching on a view screen. Now he pressed a button, and the doors near the rebels slid shut. A ray projector beamed in, and everyone cowered away. Then Bo shot an arrow up the narrow barrel, and the projector exploded. Battle Cat smashed a door down, and the rebels started to look for He-Man again. But Grizzlor still had an eye on them, and he told Hordak they were there. Meantime, Adora was out in the Fright Zone, watching and listening. She saw slaves in a Horde slave caravan being ill-treated by the cruel troopers. Whips were flourished to hurry the slaves along, and when one old man asked for water, he was flung in a pool. Later, she saw a peasant's house blown up, just because he said the Horde's taxes were too high. Adora was growing very unhappy. It looked as if He-Man was right. While Adora was out learning the truth, the rebels had found He-Man. But Hordak, Grizzlor, and Shadow Weaver had been waiting for them. Shadow Weaver paralyzed Bo, Glimmer, Madame Raz, and Broom with magic smoke. Battle Cat was tied up, unable to move. There was no sign of Cowl.
Welcome to Beast Island, rebels,
said Hordak. He-Man was struggling once more to get free of his electro-bonds.
You villain! What have you done to them?
They are merely out of action for a time. Better to ask what I will do to them if you do not tell me why you have come to Etheria.
He-Man was silent. After a moment, Grizzlor took the rebels off to a cell, and Hordak said,
We will give you time to think. Come, Shadow Weaver.
As the two villains went off, Cowl flapped down from where he had been hiding.
Can you get me loose?
Said He-Man.
Certainly.
Said Cowl.
Give me a moment.
He flapped off to the control console and started to peck at the buttons. All of a sudden, the force field faded and He-Man sat up.
Let's go find our friends,
he said to Cowl.
I've had enough of this place.
Now He-Man went into action. He pulled the door off the rebels' cell and said,
Time to go, folks.
Glimmer was worried.
We have to get to one of the Horde flyers. It's the only way off the island.
I believe the Horde's landing pad is to our right.
Said Cowl. They set off, but it wasn't going to be quite so easy. As they came out onto the landing pad, Grizzlor came straight for them in a Destructo tank, all cannons firing. He-Man waited until it was almost on him. Then he raised his fist in one mighty punch. The tank fell to pieces, and Grizzlor hit the ground, a stunned expression on his face.
Come on, He-Man!
Yelled Glimmer. All the others were inside a flyer, anxious to return to Whispering Woods.
I've one more job to do. Take off and wait,
said He-Man. And as they watched from a safe distance, He-Man pulled and heaved and cracked off the whole mountain tip. Then he dropped it on the prison. A flyer picked him up, and as he got in, He-Man said,
That's one prison the Horde will have to do without.
Hordak was now back in the Fright Zone, in his own quarters. He was talking to Shadow Weaver.
This He-Man is too dangerous to us. We must find out why he is here and how we can stop him.
As he spoke, Adora came in. The Sword of Protection was in her hand, and she pointed it at them both.
I've been seeing for myself how we rule Etheria.
She said,
You lied to me. The Horde is evil, cruel, unjust, and the people hate us.
She was angry, but she was also confused. Hordak had always been her hero. Shadow Weaver whispered to Hordak.
My spell on her has weakened. It has something to do with the sword she holds.
Then you must strengthen the spell,
said Hordak. Shadow Weaver glided over to Adora, who swung the sword towards her.
Stay away!
Oh, surely you would not harm me, Adora? Am I not like a mother to you?
Asked Shadow Weaver. She suddenly waved her hand across Adora's face, casting a spell on her.
Sleep,
said Shadow Weaver softly, and Adora crumpled to the floor.
First, this He-Man arrives, and now Adora turns against me,
said Hordak.
remember who she really is,
said Shadow Weaver.
Yes,
said Hordak, pondering.
yes.
I must find out the secrets of this sword,
said Shadow Weaver, looking at it.
and those of He-Man as well.
Hordak looked thoughtfully across at her. Then they both began to laugh wickedly.